Welcome along to another big match build-up show, and it doesn't get any easier for Saints this weekend. From the bottom club last week to the top club this week, Saints travel to the Etihad with low expectations to play Manchester City this Sunday. Now, it's fair to say the mood around St Mary's at the moment seems to be somewhat of despair, desperation, and just downright depressing. So on this week's show then, we try to understand how and where it's gone so badly wrong, and we try to discuss who should be held accountable. But in the meantime though, we do try and find some alternative methods on how Saints could in fact pull off the impossible and maybe try and put in a few favours.
Pray is the only thing I can think that may be able to change the situation. However, having said that, last season Manchester City beat us with 2 goals, both late in injury time. You know, and in both those games we thought we were going to get massacred. So stranger things have happened.
We also speak to the opposition this week, and we try to find out how to expose and pull some weaknesses in Pep Guardiola's seemingly unstoppable juggernaut.
So probably from a Saints perspective, the only way to probably maybe penetrate our defence without a mistake would probably be, a long ball into the box. I look at those 2 centre-backs, they're very tall guys. And it's not like, they're small centre-backs. Otamendi could be argued that he's a bit of a small centre-back. Even the full-back's quite tall. So I don't know how you penetrate our defence without some, majestic play almost,
So let's pray then to the God that he can lace up his boots again this weekend and just give us that majestic touch we're so desperately craving for. As usual though, the episode is available to download in the card above my head if you're watching on YouTube, or available on most audio platforms in the links below the show. I'll also be interested to find out where you're listening from and how you're listening to us. Do stay tuned later on in the show if you're away guide and find out where the closest church is to the Etihad, so you can make a prayer for a miracle this Sunday. Do let us know your predictions ahead of kickoff at any time. Do get in touch with us on the usual social pages. So then let's get to it for our match preview as Manchester City face Southampton. So welcome along to our preview part of the show, and before we get going to our Man City build-up, we're actually filming this on the night originally planned for Leicester City versus Southampton in the Carabao Cup. So we'd like to extend our condolences to Leicester City Football Club, the community of Leicester, and the family of Leicester City's owner Vichai Srivhana Prabha, whom was tragically involved in the helicopter crash last weekend. So first of all, Nick, let's start off then with the Newcastle point. Once again, another disappointing day, but let's say perhaps it's not quite terminal yet, but it's the same old story. Failing to take chances, failing to live up to expectations, failing to beat a poor side. And how many times can we repeat ourselves this season until we're absolutely sick of it? Some fans are sick of it already. Just take a look at the fan reaction from Saturday.
I'm absolutely gobsmacked.
Absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one word for me, mate, and that's relegation this season, I'm afraid. I know I said it last season. I thought we'd do something today. We can't score. We just cannot score. It's frustrating. It's hell. I think he's got to go. I like Mark Hughes. I love him. I absolutely love him. But I don't see how we're going to improve under him. I don't see how we're going to do it.
What's really disappointing for me is that Mark Hughes is a striker. How does he not get these guys to score goals?
Someone has to seriously be asking questions now. Someone upstairs has to look up and say, what's going on here?
In 2018, right, we've won 1 game here, and that was Bournemouth. Yeah? 1 in the whole of 2018. And you've got to ask yourself the question, where the hell is the next win coming from?
Just perfect football. Hughes' football is awful. I don't know what he's setting up for. It's just boring football. He's a dinosaur.
There's no urgency in Saints at the moment. They're lacking motivation. I don't know if it is the manager. We can't keep changing managers.
But the problem is we couldn't score under Pellegrino. We couldn't score under Puel. So is it the manager, or have you actually got to look at recruitment and say, well, since we sold Pella and Mane, we just haven't replaced them with anybody that can score a goal?
Do we change the manager again? Do we do it again? As far as I'm concerned, yes.
we are, as you say, we're 10 games into the season and we're already thinking, are there 3 teams worse than us in this league? And to be honest, I'm not 100% sure there is.
So, Nick, I mean, the tide's already turning and fans losing faith. The feel-good factor's well and truly faded, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I mean, there's 2 sides to every story. We've had 2 0-0 draws. One, which we would consider a good 0-0 draw at Bournemouth. There were 6 in the league. You know, technically the 6th toughest place to visit, and perhaps higher than that in the fact of their home record. And now we have Newcastle, who are one of the worst sides in the league, yet we can't score. Sadly, that's the case. But when you're in a battle like this and in times like this, you've got to take small steps and hopefully take bigger ones. And, you know, we've stopped leaking goals. We dealt with both Bournemouth and Newcastle quite comfortably. So we've got something to build on. But the lack of goals is shocking. I mean, I know we had over 20 shots again, but quite a few of them were long-range efforts from the likes of Cedric. I think who had 3 or 4 from 30 yards, which troubled the corner flag more than the goalpost. So we've got to try and take plus points. We've had 2 years of going downhill as such, or less than 2 years to be fair, but of telling ourselves we're going downhill. We've just got to try and draw a line in the sand and create a siege mentality.
Yeah, and you've written about that in some of your recent stories. But before we get to that, even I think we're still clutching at straws that we're trying to pull positives from a 0-0 draw. You know, maybe the defence has shored up a tiny bit, but I mean, do fans still have faith in Mark Hughes? And you've written in the recent article, and you can go over to the poll to cast your vote, or go above our head if you still have faith in Mark Hughes. But Nick, what's the overall feeling for you?
The feeling amongst the fans is definitely one of, you know, despair and whatever. But as you say, that can't be helped. It is what it is. You know, let's be blunt about this. There is no magic wand. We are not going to click our fingers and everything is going to be fine overnight. So, you know, we knew what the Newcastle game was going to be like. As you say, the result is utterly predictable. So why are people getting so upset about it? But those of us who were there in the 90s know what's needed. It's a siege mentality. Get behind the team and hopefully try and change things, because something has to change. It might be the manager, it might be the players, it might be Les Reed, it might be anyone. But it also has to be the fans, and fans can turn bad games into reasonable ones. The feeling is that Mark Hughes is not the man for the job. I mean, at the end of the day, his record just doesn't stand up. And I can, from that point of view, I can see that. Last season, he didn't keep it so much as keep us up. It's West Brom, Stoke and Swansea failed to gain enough points to put us down. Swansea, 2 points in their final 8 games. You know, that kept us up more than our own performances, which were 2 wins in the last 8 games. So Mark Hughes now has had 18 games in charge and I think got something like 17 points.
The record speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? You know, I think it's less than a point per game. It's less than Pellegrino's points return ratio. And, you know, Charlie Austin has urged the fans in some of his recent press interviews to keep the faith. We are trying, we are creating chances, but I think we're right at the end of our tether, though, aren't we?
We are, but Charlie Austin is right. What do they expect? You know, what do fans expect players to say? What do fans expect managers to say? That's what they do. You know, in any bad run, you've just got to keep the faith and hopefully you turn the point. But I'll be blunt. If you think that the team are going to change the course and are going to be great, then it's probably not worth you going to the next half a dozen home games. You know, we're going to have to drag out results. It's not going to be pretty to watch. We've got to get enthusiasm. Last Saturday, Newcastle played with enthusiasm. Their players played for the manager. The fans got behind the team. Newcastle fans have got far more to moan at about the state of their club and board and than we have. But the supporters, despite the fact that Newcastle were below us in the league and have had rotten times of late, Newcastle fans got behind the team, not behind the board, not behind the owner, but got behind the team. Now, plain to the matter is Newcastle playing at 80-90% tempo was not good enough to even get a shot on our goal, which tells us something about our team and our tempo. The players are trying, but they've got no leadership, and there's no leadership from off the pitch and the manager. As you quite rightly said, Hughes' record is no better than Pellegrino's. In fact, it's probably worse now.
I think it is marginally worse, and like you say, the fans get behind the Newcastle team, and history suggests, like when you were in the 90s, you were there protesting outside the Dell against the manager, against the board, the ownership. But once you got through those turnstiles, it's all about the team, all behind those 11 players. But the record at the moment, without a goal in 5 Premier League games, which has not happened in 17 years since 2001, we've got a less than 4% conversion rate. And I said this to you in the pub on Saturday, but for the guys at home, we will need over 1,000 shots in order for us to need to score 50 goals this season. It tells you everything about our strikers at the moment.
It's not the strikers as much as, on Saturday, probably over a quarter of our attempts on goal came from the fullbacks from distance. It's one of those strange things. The harder you try to get a goal, the harder it gets to score it. And we need a bit of luck. We need a ball that's going 25 yards wide to hit someone's arse and change direction completely. And that changes seasons. It needs, we need to focus on what we want. Everyone has to focus in situations like this, the supporters, the club, and everyone. There's clearly things wrong. But the club isn't rotten to the core. You want to see a club that's rotten to the core, look at Newcastle. That is rotten to the core. Saints aren't. Gow hasn't taken over the club, clearly, to make multi-millions. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spent 57 million on transfers. If he wants to lose the 200 million he puts in, it's if we get relegated, then he'll lose it. So a lot of this ranting about Gow is only here to make money and he's not cared about the club. If he makes money, he's got to see the club do well. But we've got to deal with it, and something has to change. And unfortunately, I don't think Mark Hughes is the man for the job at this moment in time. That may change. Football, they reckon you're only 5 games from the sack and you're only 5 games from glory. Mark Hughes goes to Man City and wins, beats Watford, and then we get a Fulham, whoever's next up. Suddenly everything looks rosier. Doesn't look likely, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, it's a funny old game, and it is that time of year. Stranger things have happened, and maybe what's more to rub salt in the wounds, some of our low knees, Harrison Rees scoring one from 25 yards at the weekend for Blackburn, and Jake Hesketh scoring down against the Blue Few last weekend. But moving on to Sunday then, I think it's fair to say it's entirely expected that we're going up to Etihad to expect a hammering. And the game itself, I know you've had a few conversations with the FSF that the game has been moved to a Sunday for 3 o'clock because of Man City's TV commitments on the Monday night, which then pushed back their Carabao Cup tie on Thursday. They're moving us to Sunday. A bit of a nightmare for the fans.
To be fair to Manchester City, and I don't think it was so much that the Manchester City game was moved for TV. It was moved because there was the long-standing American football game at Wembley on Sunday. It's not great for supporters. There's lots of work that the Football Supporters Federation are doing to try and deal with things like this. But, it's the face of modern football. Sadly, there's no one under 30 who is unused to the games changing. If you're 31 years old, it's what you're used to. 25 years of games being played Friday nights, Saturday lunchtime, Sunday afternoons and Monday nights. Sadly, it's the price we have to pay as fans, but that doesn't make it right. And the FA, Premier League, etc., should be doing more to help the travelling fans.
Absolutely, and it's strange that it's been moved to a 3 o'clock, yet there's still a vacant 1:30 TV slot. But I think as far as you're concerned, though, you've written about this in your article, this is a free hit at the weekend. I mean, we know how well Man City can play. I mean, what must Mark Hughes do then this weekend to even get the slightest bit of hope and try not to embarrass ourselves?
Pray is the only thing I can think that may be able to change the situation. However, having said that, last season Manchester City beat us with 2 goals, both late in injury time. And in both those games we thought we were going to get massacred. So stranger things about the thing is about Manchester City, if there's one thing or one smidgen of hope we can take, is that Manchester City tend to over elaborate a bit. So we had 22 shots against Newcastle with 4 on target, and I think they had 13 against Tottenham with 4 on target. Yet they were all over Spurs at one point. So the one smidgen of hope we can take is that they tend to try and see the whites of the goalkeeper's eyes before they take a chance. So maybe a bit of last gasp defending. I don't know, play a back 7. We can get something out of it. But it's a free hit. We're expected to lose. Everyone loses. The only team that don't lose against Manchester City are the other top 6 teams. So let's go there. Manchester City will lose a game this season. Maybe it'll be against us.
Well, who knows? But the golfing class is huge, though, and it's fair to say I think the game plan should be maybe just try and keep the score modest. And like you say, we only lost by a single margin from both of the games at last season. But I think perhaps Mark Hughes might be looking at this for damage limitation once again.
Definitely, it's damage limitation, and you've got to look at the golfing class. And what people don't really look at is how the Premier League has moved on, how money has moved on. The big 6 have got richer. I read an article this week where Liverpool made £80 million from their Champions League run last season. £80 million. And that's on top of the money they get from everything else, increased TV rights, player sales, whatever. £80 million more than us before we even start. Yet we're expected to compete with them.
Huge golfing class, but I think it's probably fair to say I can maybe guess your prediction, but what do you think it's going to be by a scoreline?
I don't know. Let me just consult something which could help me here, which is called a calculator. I don't know. I mean, what do you say on that? I mean, realistically, we're not going to win this game. But football isn't about realism. It's about fantasy sometimes. So, 95%, there's a 95% chance we'll lose this, a 4% chance we might get a draw if there's very little injury time, and a 1% chance we'll win it. But that's why we go to football matches. We don't go to football matches to be entertained. Anybody who goes, I'm not going to a football match because I'm not being entertained, they don't get it. We don't go to football matches to be entertained. We go there for that 1% when we actually win a game that we're not meant to. When suddenly we're there. We've had, what was last season about? It wasn't about the 38 games we played in total, the 36 games before. It was about going to Swansea and winning, which was a special night, one of the best nights in 20 years as a supporter. That's what we go for. We go for those results we're not expected to get. The League Cup semi-final second leg at Liverpool when they battered us and we still held on and in the end got a last-minute goal 1-0. That's what we go for. So I don't go to be entertained. I don't care about entertainment. I don't care if Manchester City have 75 shots and 98% possession. If we had one shot and scored and won 1-0. I don't care. When we played Watford, I don't care if we're the most boring team on the planet if we win. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, I think it's make or break mentality, and hopefully we're not sitting here in a few weeks' time about to hit the meltdown mode panic button.
That's right. I mean, the problem the board have got and the problem Les Reed has got, because what we have to do is isolate the problem here. The problem isn't Ralph Kruger in the main, who has put together a commercial program and built the income streams up, etc., and overseeing the club. Kruger's problem is he hasn't dealt with the Les Reed problem, and Les Reed's problem is that he's failed to identify players this summer. I wouldn't quite say the last summer has been too bad, or the summer before that, but this summer he hasn't signed the right players, and he's again possibly appointed the wrong manager in Mark Hughes. So the problem is for Les Reed and the board is this is a big admittance of getting it wrong. So, if they sack Mark Hughes, Les Reed's got to fall on his sword, possibly. And that's the nature of the situation. Every club gets the wrong managerial appointment sometimes. And I don't think they got it wrong with Pure. We were 8th in the league and got to a cup final. We just didn't like the way we were playing. And we had this, everything was great. When Matthew Letizier played, we were being entertained. Not very often, I would add, for large chunks. But they got Pellegrino badly. They sacked Pure because of the fans not buying season tickets when they, against their better judgment. But they appointed Pellegrino, which was a disaster, and they kept him in a job far too long. And now they've appointed Mark Hughes, and it's not working out. Someone's head has got a roll on that, and that is the problem with sacking him. So, I don't think it will be. I think it will be later rather than sooner.
All right, we'll leave it for there then, and maybe we can hold this conversation for another. But let's let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and Nick, we'll catch up soon, mate.
No problem.
So thank you very much to Nick. I think it is fair to say even the hardiest of souls are going to take their hard hats at the weekend, because we are expecting a hammering. Of course, do let us know what you think of Nick's comments about who should be held accountable for the sharp decline we've seen over the past few seasons, and what you think should happen next. Get involved in the comments below. As for Sunday, though, if you do manage to get there well ahead of kickoff, then there are 3 churches less than a mile away from the Etihad, so you can nip in and say your prayers and hope for a miracle for a Saints win at the Etihad. But if you are looking for a little bit of liquid luck, unfortunately, there's not much in the way of that either, apart from the fan zone on the site of the Etihad. Alternatively, then you can nip into Manchester City Centre towards Piccadilly or Victoria, head towards the Printworks, where there's a variety of different bars you can pop into. Manchester Piccadilly is perhaps slightly easier to get to the Etihad. It's only a few stops away on the Metro. Time now, though, to get onto my conversation with the opposition as I try to investigate on how to halt Pep Guardiola's unstoppable machine. So welcome along to our opposition part of the show, and a new face this time round. I've been scrambling around the internet to find a willing Man City fan to go on video for us and speak to us on the podcast. But welcome to the show, Buvey, from 90 Min, the other big fan channel. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Obviously, the result on Monday, very, very happy with how Man City are performing. It should be a good game on the weekend. Yeah, well, let's get straight to it then, really. Man City, I've read today, the great entertainers across the Premier League website. 27 goals so far in 10 games. Top of the list on goals scored. And like you say, you're enjoying yourself at the moment. Yeah, 100%. I think the big thing that everyone talks about, Aguero, David Silva, obviously Kevin De Bruyne didn't play, but players like that you do mention. For me, the most impressive thing, last 10 games, I think it's been about 3 goals conceded for us in 10 games. And Laporte and John Stones, it's a tough one against Southampton. Will they both start against Southampton at home? It's going to be a tough one to see if they do. But otherwise, I think our defence, overall is really, really impressive. Mendy back to full fitness is obviously really good for us. And Walker's come back in. And maybe not as high energy as he was last season. That's probably down to the World Cup. That back four, it looks really settled. And it's a really good back four,
Yeah, and that leads me perfectly to my next point, really. Today, I read that Laporte has yet to taste defeat in the Premier League.
Yeah, he came in at a really good time. We're on that silly good run of wins in the Premier League. He came in and I think he settled us down. I think we obviously lost to Liverpool on the turn of the year in the Premier League. He comes in a few days later, or a few weeks later, and he's so calm. And when I say on my channel, when I talk to other Man City fans, he is John Stones, but with a left foot. I think they're both very, very similar height. They're both 24. I think their birthdays, even that is a day apart. They're symmetrical. And if you're looking at a centre-back pairing, it's the youngest regular starting centre-back pairing in the Premier League. If you're looking for a dynasty of centre-back pairings in the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's definitely got to be those two.
The defence at the moment, immense. And Ederson, 6 clean sheets in a row. He looks like he's looking for that record to break for Edwin van der Sar, which was 14, I think, right? So you haven't conceded a goal at all since September the 1st. And, you know, like you say, you briefly touched upon it, and Saints cannot score at the moment. You know, Man City scoring for fun and not willing to let a goal in either.
I look at your side, and I think you've got a couple of natural goal scorers there. I think obviously the Saints fans must be sort of kicking themselves as well, looking at every week the likes of Charlie Austin and Danny Ings. I think they're goal scorers. You know, even tap-ins, maybe not the most clinical finishers in the world, but I think you're expecting a bit of obviously a way better goal return than they're providing you guys at the moment. Maybe the issue is that you're playing. Well, I think you're playing 4-4-2 if I'm correct. Maybe it's that they're both similar players. Maybe that's the issue. They're both two similar strikers. Maybe you need a hold up man. I know Gabbiadini's not been doing great for you either. So I know you're in a bit of a tough position in that sense. You'll probably drop one of them for us. I think you probably won't play 2 against us. It depends what your midfield can do. Can they provide opportunities for either Charlie Austin or Danny Ings to score? And that's to be questioned,
Yeah, I think the question is, does Mark Hughes know his best strike partnership, to be honest? Like the last few weeks, he's been swapping around Ings and Long, Ings and Austin, Ings and Gabbiadini. Ings is clearly the number one choice, but, I've also read a quote recently that ever so quietly, Manchester City have become rather good at defending. Is that a real reflection at the moment?
The first season Guardiola came in, he was implementing certain things that Premier League sides are yet to adapt, and he adapted it in that first season. We were obviously quite poor. We didn't win anything in that first season, but it's all paid. It's sort of come to fruition now. And the thing with Guardiola is, I think everyone talks about how well he played his sides played at Bayern and Barcelona. There's some crazy stat in terms of the amount of goals in La Liga. Is one of the good records Guardiola's got is the little amount of goals that Barcelona conceded in La Liga. It's absolutely incredible. I think the whole thing is the way he plays is actually defensive, because if Man City score early, we don't mess around. We don't need to chase it. We can keep the ball better than anyone, in my opinion, better than anyone in the world at keeping the ball. And it makes teams, it gives them no opportunities. I think Spurs had 4 touches in the box at their home ground. Yes, the pitch was bad. Yes, it's not their best lineup. But if a side like Spurs are struggling to get any opportunities, then suddenly sides like Southampton, with all due respect, Burnley, Fulham, they're just going to get blown away. Cardiff. How can you compete unless Man City make a mistake? And obviously that's evident when they make a mistake. Teams like Liverpool pounced on us last season. So probably from a Saints perspective, the only way to probably maybe penetrate our defence without a mistake would probably be, a long ball into the box. I look at those 2 centre-backs. They're very tall guys. And it's not like, they're small centre-backs. Otamendi could be argued that he's a bit of a small centre-back. Even the fullback's quite tall. So I don't know how you penetrate our defence without some, majestic play almost,
Yeah, I think we've got to be patient on Sunday afternoon, of course. But I think, a lot of the writers and the reporters are saying that this could be one of the best teams ever in the Premier League. And the team's become a bit iconic now, obviously, with the Amazon Prime series. I hope Mark Hughes has been watching that on repeat over the last week or so to just get a few tips and tricks to try and, penetrate, the back line of Man City, like you say. But 2 players in particular I want to point out, actually, that he's had a lot of stick, but he comes good playing for Man City, and he made a great assist holding up the ball and then released the ball to Riyad Mahrez on Monday night. Raheem Sterling, playing some of his best football ever in a City shirt.
I love him at City. I do love him. I think the question mark is he a Champions League semi-final kind of player that you expect him to score? And the only debate is he's probably not yet. And he's still got a lot of, he's got a high ceiling. If you're talking about in the Premier League, I think he's got 200 appearances in the Premier League now for almost a record age. He's probably at 45, 50 goals in the Prem. So he's absolutely outstanding in the Premier League. He's improving his game all round. His touch is better. Playing as an inverted winger against Spurs, and obviously in the weeks before that, he's offering little balls down the channel to the overlapping fullback. He's shooting. Obviously, he scored that goal against Arsenal at the start of the season as an example. So he offers so much. I think he can improve. I think he can definitely get better. And even for England, I think, people slagged him off for England. He offered a lot of movement, and we got a lot of, space and time on the wings to cross balls in because of his movement in down the middle. And it pulled fullbacks apart. It pulled centre-backs apart. And I thought he was brilliant at the World Cup. Obviously, he needed to score. But then he scored against Spain. So there's clear sort of markers there that he's certainly improving as a player. I think he's there to stay. I hope there's an issue with his contract at the moment. I hope we sort that out, sharpish, because he's a top talent. I think he can certainly improve. But I think he's bordering a world-class sort of young talent at the moment for sure.
It's interesting you say that, and I think it's also the influence from Pep Guardiola. When we went up to the Etihad, he put his arm around Nathan Redmond because he knows he's a good player. Maybe they are very similar types of player, but one player as well. On Monday night, I mentioned this at the top of our show. The tribute to the Leicester City owner Riyad Mahrez, pointing to Sky, a tribute to his former employer. And Pep has praised his mental strength on Monday night.
Yeah, I thought Mahrez was brilliant. I mean, it was a nice little finish. Obviously, the run itself that he makes is almost better than the finish. Obviously, the poor defending from Spurs' point of view, but he was wise enough that sometimes teams will whip a ball across the face of goal and there won't be anyone there because the striker's missed it, so there's suddenly no one there. But for Mahrez to come across from the other wing and to finish it was really, really nice. And after Anfield, obviously what happened at Anfield, he's shown no signs of lack of confidence. He's been brilliant for us. There's a few things for me I'd like to see him improve. I think he can take people on a bit more. I think he's got a wonderful left foot. I think people know that, and they started to sort of see him onto his left foot. He's been in the Prem for 3 years. We know how good he is on his left foot. But I think he can offer a tiny bit more. I don't think he's playing at Sterling's level yet, and that's just my opinion. But he's keeping Sane out the side, and I think Sane is, again, bordering a world-class young talent. So Mahrez is obviously doing good things for Guardiola. He keeps the ball exceptionally well. He's a very smart player. I just want to see him that 5% at the top of his game. I want to see him score a few more goals, or at least make some dangerous opportunities. But yeah, I'm really happy with that signing. It was a nice little signing, actually.
And it's interesting you say that he's keeping Sane out of the team, a player that picked up Young Player of the Year as well. But more to Sunday than the head-to-head record, let's say. The two meetings last season, Man City only won by a single margin, and both in injury time. Do you think they're going to see much of the same on Sunday? Do you think Saints are going to frustrate City so much?
Well, you obviously tried that at Southampton. At the Etihad. Actually, yeah, you did try that at both games. Of course, you did. At the Etihad, I was there. I was absolutely ecstatic when Sterling obviously scored that goal. The whole Redmond drama. It was a nice game. And you put up a fight. I think your form, though, I think it's so poor. And I'm not going to lie to you. I think based on how City are playing, it's the ball's in our court, and of course it is. With a side like Man City, the amount of money we've spent, how good we are. I think it's going to be a little bit further away from that sort of goal margin. I think it could be 3-4-0, just purely based on form. And looking at your defence, I'd worry about those two centre backs against someone like Sergio Aguero. I think Kevin De Bruyne will probably get a start as well. So it's probably not a great time for Kevin De Bruyne to start coming back for you guys.
Well, it sounds like everything is brilliant at Man City. Everything is great. We just wish in some sort of alternative reality that we had that sort of luck eventually. But it is going to be tough for Saints. I don't think you're going to be too far off the truth about 3 or 4-0. That's my opinion too, actually. But 100 points it was at St Mary's. Do you think you're going to be close again this season?
It's really dependent on our Champions League. I think if we go to the quarters, semi-finals of the Champions League, I think that's where you might see a rotation where we do drop points. We might pick up draws or a few losses here and there. Even that, I think. As a City fan, I genuinely want to win the Premier League more than the Champions League this season. I think it's important to retain the Premier League. The Champions League is a massive goal. The club want to win the Champions League. Of course they do. But for me, the Premier League's, I think we're more of a league club. I think some clubs are more European-centric, like Liverpool. I want to retain the Premier League. I think I want to build a dynasty in this league and go again and try and win it 3 times in a row. Why not? Why can we not do that with the young side we've got? Guardiola's here for that season as well, and plus another 2 seasons, I believe. But going back to the Centurions thing, I think it's gone under the radar of how incredible that is. For example, if United win every single game of the season next, they can't get 100 points. So that's the margin of getting 100 points. The margin is so small. And obviously against Southampton, you put up a great fight. It was 0-0 for so long. And the finish from Jesus was absolutely incredible. And you could see it in the celebration at St Mary's. Guardiola's running down the touchline as if we'd won the Premier League that day. We won it 2 months before that. So it was a really great day. But also going to Mark Hughes, your manager, by the way, I really respect Mark Hughes for the time he had at Man City as manager. He bought obviously a couple of really important players for us, Nigel de Jong, one of them, and Vincent Kompany. And I thought he was a great manager for us. I think he was a great manager at Blackburn, did some good stuff at Stoke, highest ever finish with Stoke. And I think he can turn it around. He's a structured manager. But as a Man City fan, I really respect sort of what Mark Hughes did for us.
And I hope he does turn it around eventually. But ever since he sort of left City, it's kind of faded away a little bit. But I do appreciate you talking to us as well. Big thanks for joining us. And just tell everybody where we can find you. We know you've got a YouTube channel of yourself. Yeah,
so just it's Buvey. It's just my name, just Man City and general football content on there on YouTube, and then on Twitter as well. So yeah.
Thanks, mate, and all the best, but hopefully not so much on Sunday.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Just terrific then. Everything's brilliant. Everything's great at Man City at the moment. And a big thanks to Buvey for clarifying that. But do make sure you check out his channel for more Man City content, or head over to 90 Min where you can see him on this weekend's Matchday Diaries. But that does call an end to this week's show. And before we do sign off, I want to raise your attention this month. And this week in particular signifies and starts the month of Movember. Of course, where men around the country, around the world, will grow a moustache to raise vital funds and awareness for all the dads, brothers, sons, all the mates in our lives. And it's all for men's health, particularly to help fight prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and to help prevent male suicides. You can donate to the cause in the link below the show. And if you're taking part, maybe send us a snap of your Mo too, see how you're getting on. So big thanks then for watching, for listening along this week. Do let us know your predictions for the weekend. I'm not holding my breath, but all I can say now is come on, you Saints.